Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hello, Bartek. How are you going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I am doing very well. I'm sitting here next to you, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Sorry, I
Positive.
forgot to say your name. Hi, Ryan.
Well, Bartek, you have one job. We have a very strict formula for how we introduce the pod. And if we deviate off of it, the other one has to ridicule the person who deviated us off the meticulous introduction phase of our Pictures Powwow show.
Oh, don't call yourself ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Ridiculous. Thank you. I've got a doctorate in evil. Ooh, remember that? That was from Dr. Horrible.
That's got nothing to do with this movie.
Well, they're both villains. So we are here to talk about a movie that came recommended for our show, and our show is Pictures Powwow, and that's the formula. We're spit and polish likingly because we are always spitting, and we both happen to be Polish. Any Polish facts, Bartek? Anything happening in Poland culturally that you'd like to inform us? Any facts modernly or historically? Anything you've learned recently about Poland?
Let me just click clock.
He's going to look up the time.
It's currently 6:30 a.m., so my dad might be
In
waking...
Poland?
Yes, in Warsaw, in fact.
In Warsaw?
It just became 6:31 a.m.
Should we phone your dad now and see if he's awake to confirm that he's awake status?
Well, it's a Sunday. I should probably let him rest, right?
No, it's my day off. Let's phone him.
No, let him rest.
The
let him rest.
No. He has so many toilets in his house, he's not allowed to rest. Okay, let's get real, as David Lynch would say, and talk about a film. I recommended a film. I recommended the 2017 film Bad Genius from Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
So people, if you have not seen the movie, we say that you should check it out. We are going to be talking about it in depth and spoilers, but to give you a quick plug of what it's about for you to go off and check on your own to kind of sell you on it. It is a film in which it's set in high school, and we are following a super genius mathematician girl who uses her genius for bad by helping her fellow classmates cheat at tests for money, and things get bigger and more elaborate as it goes along, and morality is questioned, and it's very fun. I recommend you go watch it. Off you pop. Okay, now it's just for the Bad Genius viewers. Bartek, I recommended this having heard good word of mouth. I had not seen this before doing this. I just wanted to give it a go because a few years back, people were doing their "you should check these movies out" lists. 2017 hidden gems, or movies that I thought were very good. And so I have no recollection of which individual person one of these videos popped in on my radar and made me want to check it out, but I put it in my list. Bad Genius. And I remember that it was an Asian language film and that it was a comedic film about a bunch of high school kids cheating at a test, and that it was supposed to be kind of like this elaborate heist type deal.
Yep.
That's all I had. So that's what I walked into. And I think that's what I pitched to you last week as well at the very end. And you seemed very excited.
It was a much more basic one than that like left a lot to the imagination of like, oh man, that has potential.
Yeah. And so I walked in excited, and it's my first ever Thai film that I'm aware of.
Same here,
I've
actually.
ever watched a Thai movie.
First Thailandian film.
Thailandian film, as Bartek says. But I had a great time with this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was sitting there grinning from ear to ear. I got sweaty palms at certain points. It was very stressful in moments, and it made me think of so many moments from my own high school experience as well when it came to tests and people cheating at tests. And we'll get into kind of that minutia of my own backstory when it comes to that thing. But we had some cheating incidents at my high school that were not this elaborate, of course, but it made me recollect on my time of school where kids were doing these type of things. So I had a wonderful experience. I sat down with my wife, Rachel. We watched this. knowing very little, just the basic tag of this, and I was surprised with how invested I became with our lead character, because I thought this was going to be one of those where I was going to enjoy more of the entire ensemble because they're all fun.
Yeah.
They're very fun, well defined, but I was really drawn to our lead, and I thought the performance was great. I thought the character development and the questioning and challenging that they had to go through was very meticulously done. And I was also a little bit, it's one of those ones where I sat and went, oh, movie, you outsmarted me there. I didn't realize that, I was a bit of a dummy. The movie played me with the misleading us on the timeline of things being shown, and like, they're actually not getting interrogated. They're practicing, and this news report is actually after the events of the movie, but we're thinking that it's during the events of lots of this stuff. It played me like a damn fiddle.
Yes, it was certainly later than the present, but not as far as you think.
Yeah, so that is kind of my overall point with this. I had a good time. How about you? How did you go? What was your experience walking in and walking out?
Experience walking in, it was one of my usual things of like, do I watch it in the morning or do I watch it before bed? I picked before bed, watched it the whole way through. That was fine. At some point, our podcast is going to end.
Okay.
Whether it's
okay, guys, it's ending now.
Whether it's it could be for a happy reason, it could be for a sad reason. Obviously, I hope that it will be for a happy reason, and
we watch one Paul Giamatti movie too many, and we end
our friendship. No, I hope that whenever this podcast ends, it is on a happy note, so that maybe we could do like a final episode where we think back on the podcast. Because I would imagine in that kind of episode, we would talk about films that we saw that really surprised us and that we really grew to love. And I would definitely bring this one up because I was actually quite blown away by how much I love this film.
I said this to my parents. I was on the phone to them before you came. I said to them, I watched a movie last night called Bad Genius, and I told Bartek the pitch of it, and he sounded really excited. And then I watched it, and I said, I think this may be one of Bartek's favorite movies we do on the podcast because it screamed Bartek. There was this moment early on. There was this one little moment, and it may not mean anything to you, but I thought of you when it happened, which is when they're getting their school photos taken, and the girl comes over and adjusts her hair and does all of that, and then we cut to the next character being introduced, and we're introducing them via that school photo motif, and I just smiled and went, this is something I think would connect with, like this kind of introduction of character, like that technique of doing it is something that would please Bartek.
Yeah.
It may not have in your moment, but I just looked around and I just thought of you. I was like, Bartek would like this kind of fun character introduction. I was like, look, we now meet Bank and he's being introduced in the school photo and all of that stuff. And I was like going, yeah, this is the jam. But I'm glad to hear that this one really hooked you.
It was one where obviously there are a lot of developments. Like here we got a basic plan. Here we got characters being established, friendship being established, the first sort of thing that they do. And just each step of the journey was really well done, like really gripping. When there's a bit of a not twist, but at the beginning, a reveal. I'm talking about like when the first cheating gets caught, like in the exam, and like the principal's telling them off, and it's like, where will it go from here, really? Like, Are they going to up the stakes? Are they going to try to be more subtle? And they up the stakes. And you mentioned sweaty palms. The movie becomes a genuine thriller at one point. It helps that there's a scary Russian-looking guy. But yeah.
There was this moment in it where they did that. The first test where they got caught that first time, where the dumbass is obviously cheating, and the good kid tells the teacher and he doesn't really care, and so on and so forth, and like it's really they're literally sweating. It made me think about your recommendation, that Japanese movie we did about the Confessions, where I loved the audacity. Like in part I loved the audacity and the twists and turns and the but that film was too bombastic for my taste.
It was very stylized.
This was kind of what I wish that movie was, where there's enough restraint here and focus on character whilst also leaning into the absurdity and the fun of this, because one of the things that was primal to me about this was when I was in school doing these tests, I would visualize and imagine while doing them that they were more exciting than they were, that they were these scenes from a movie where you're taking this mundane thing and making it like an Ocean's 11, and that's what the cheating, that section with the cheating really felt like. Or even the first time when she dropped the eraser into the shoe and slid it back, and all of that, it was like how I felt when I was a kid doing these tests and thinking about all of these absurd things that you could get away with, or thinking about like how can this be a high octane thing in my brain just to make myself entertained, because they were the most boring thing to me. I personally was never stressed out by tests at school. I just found them boring. And so I would visualize these things and imagine up these scenarios. And so there's that kind of childlike wonder in this movie with that, of like, it made me kind of think about whoever created this may have been similar to me, where they were sitting in a classroom imagining up stuff, and they're like, wouldn't it be cool if we did like a proper thriller kind of Ocean's 11 heist type thing, but it's about kids cheating at a test? Yeah. And I'm like, that as a pitch works already. But the thing is, they go beyond the humorous idea of that, because that sounds like it could be like a great college humor video, where it's like people cheating at a test, but it's done like Ocean's 11 style. But they go beyond the humorous notion that would present and go with the actual drama that would ensue. And I thought it was, it truly enraptured me the whole time.
I'm really glad that the film didn't go to any sort of plot point where something was too hard for our two genius characters, because that would have been a possibility of like, this is actually harder, I can't do this. Like, it establishes there that like, these guys will get 100% in everything.
it's no obstacle to them.
It's no obstacle to them. It's no obstacle to the story. Watch it knowing that like, hey, effort is not a problem for them. They know what they're doing. They know how to get 100%. With that in mind, let's see what happens here. Because if they struggled, it's just like, oh, well, there it is. That's the end.
The one thing that they do well is obviously the struggles that they have are moral struggles. She becomes uncomfortable with what she's becoming after a certain point, and the dangers ensued, and the fact that, can I, instead of pursuing the money and the greed, pursue love? And then, oh, I've corrupted this guy, really. And obviously another one is, since we're jumping ahead a little, getting Bank involved in this, you have to have her have a struggle, which is she's not as good at memorization as he is, in like short-term memorization as he is. We established that early in the movie that he knows things because he just he plays memory games. She is good at memory too, but not as good. So having that threaded through as a minor weakness for her. So when she is having to do it all on her own, you actually do feel the dread and the worry and the confusion and the suspense for her, because there is that thing of, you don't want them to be too perfect, because obviously they're going to nail the tests.
Yeah.
But when she's in the Sydney setting, it's not about her just having to nail the tests. It's about her nailing them in time and memorizing all of this now. It's no longer just, I do this part, you do that part. That was where the minor character flaw became a bigger concern rather than it was before, where before you're like, oh man, it's just a little thing. She's still got pretty good memory, but now she's going to have to remember double the amount she was supposed to. And that was heart-racing.
On top of everything else she's worrying about. Yeah.
On top of it also being a suspect, and also her other weakness, she can't vomit on cue.
Oh man, that scene.
That was fucking brutal.
That scene with the pencil, I was thinking like, oh, we should have recommended this for October, I reckon.
Oh, jeez Louise. But let's pull back a bit. Let's go to the kind of opening sections of the movie. You knew what the general loose premise was, but how was it for you in the opening stages of this, when it was kind of unfurling itself? How did you approach it and feel about it?
Well, like you, this is the first time I've seen a Thai film. And obviously as someone who does enjoy, world cinema, not necessarily saying that I'm, the biggest connoisseur of it, but I do enjoy seeing films from other cultures. There was this sense in me that is wariness the right word? This is a culture that I'm unfamiliar with. Like, if we were watching, a Bollywood film, I've seen enough Bollywood films.
You're worried about lack of cultural contexts?
In a way, yes. Part of my goal in this was to see if I could pick up on something. And, one of the interesting things was like, oh, these characters all have, like, names I recognize. Like, obviously not the actors themselves. They have very long names that, took me a second to pronounce. But, we have Lynn, Grace, Pat, and Bank, a bit less so, but it's still,
it's still
a word
an easier
recognize.
name, yeah.
Yeah, so just trying to understand, like, okay, so Thailand, maybe there's some sort of Western influence going on, but then there are also some things that are very similar to, Japanese stuff. And I remember after the movie, did a very simple simple Google of, like, Thailand culture. And the first result I got mentioned a couple of things. It's like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Like, this is a culture that has a big thing about saving face and shame, thing like that. There was one thing I read that put the initial, like, racer in the shoe test cheating thing, made it interesting. Apparently, they have a thing with feet where it's considered, like, really low or something like that. It's like, if you do something with your feet, that's something that's generally frowned upon. So I thought, like, oh, if that's true, then that puts, the whole cheating and the immorality into a different sort of light.
Is a visual and cultural signifier to the act they're doing. If what you're saying is correct, that doing the act of something with your feet is considered to be low or grimy or frowned upon, then cheating using foot techniques is kind of a way of the movie kind of nodding along, going, look at these characters.
There was even a little line in this little article I found that said, like, even crossing your feet is bad, and that's like one of the things she does to hide.
That's one of the things she does to hide her feet. Weird thing to say, but it means so much to me. When a film earns my trust via the opening credit sequence, I know, like, I've got a good film, because the opening, like, credits, when they introduce the title Bad Genius, and they have it, like, the multiple choice circled in the letters. Obviously it's in Thai, but I understood what it was spelling out, and it zoomed out and it showed me the full thing. I laughed and I went, oh, that's pretty clever. And I knew I was in good hands with that. I don't know if you ever get that with movies yourself, but I do a lot. There's a lot of times where if a movie has ingenious or very clever or very well done kind of opening credits or listing of cast and crew, I do earn a favor with it. It wins me over.
If it's, thematically tied to the film, then for sure I can see that being a good thing.
Because I thought I was really clever, and then the end credits with all the, like, names being, written in, like, school papers, and I thought that was really, really well done. And so when they were, like, circling the answers on the multiple choices, I'm like, oh my God, is this going to write out the full fucking title? And then it did, and I was really happy. It won me over. When I was watching it early, I was thinking, okay, so we're introducing our main character and she's this social outcast. I was thinking, okay, she's going to be the social outcast that nobody likes. This is what I thought. She's going to be a social outcast that nobody likes, but she's going to try and win them over with her genius and, build this empire in the way that she does, but not in the way that I thought. Like, I didn't actually expect her to form a semi-genuine relationship with other students, and then they kind of pressure her and tempt her into doing this. I thought it was going to be far more of a, I'm the social outcast nerd who wants to fit in with the
sort of like
kids.
social rags to riches kind of thing. Yeah,
but this really also does touch on classism.
Yeah.
I really wasn't expecting that, but I thought that was brilliant. The tea money introduction thing, I thought that was really well done, because at first I didn't understand what they were saying there, but then I got it, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. I get what they're doing here. And I became very much on side of our main character because of how they played around with the classism and the dynamic she has with her father as well. I thought he was really great. He didn't get to do too much, but even with a language barrier, you could tell that guy was a really good actor. The dad he didn't even need to say much to communicate everything you needed of him.
I know we always jump to like IMDb Trivia. Did you read it?
I read some of it, yeah.
Yeah, there was like 8 points there, and a lot of it felt like it was written in, from someone who didn't speak English because of sentence structure stuff. I think it said something about that actor being like a long-lost singer or something.
Oh, wow, okay.
So like maybe this was someone who was famous a long time ago and then hadn't been in the spotlight.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if that's the case for sure, but like, it said something like long-lost singer, and I'm like, what does that mean?
Well, yeah, the film did a really meticulous job early on of setting up why we would want to follow the main character. Because that is very important in a movie like this, where they're going to do morally dubious things. They're going to alienate the people that genuinely care about them. They're going to pursue money over any sort of convictions. And, oh, wouldn't you know, the thing that they were wanting in the first place is going to be something that they realize they've gone so far beyond. And we've seen many of those, and there's just certain ways that you have to get the audience connected to that type of character. And sometimes you fail, but here it was 100% success. I was rooting for her, knowing that I shouldn't be.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to have for a film. Like, that they're in the wrong to whatever degree, but you're still rooting for them. I know that with me, like, I was, somewhat conflicted, because obviously I liked our main character. I was rooting for her.
But as a teacher, you felt morally outraged.
There were some things as a teacher that I, squinted at. It was mostly like the teacher's attitudes and things like that. I was like, oh, should I be doing that? But yeah, it was just this one thing of like, but she can't possibly come out on top in the end, right? But how badly should she fail, and how bad should I feel when she fails? That kind of
how
thing.
bad should I feel for bad genius?
This is a film, with a lot of, you already brought up, moral complexity. Like, especially the Grace character was one that I had a lot of really conflicted feelings for.
Oh yeah,
I do not dislike that character. I do think that there were some, like, the friendship she felt was pure, but like,
there are circumstances that make it disingenuous and manipulative.
Manipulative is more so that case. I kind of liken it to like a drug addiction.
Oh, of course.
Like at first, this was a genuine friendship. Hey, like, help me out with this test, okay? Then it escalated because her boyfriend came into it and he brought friends, and then it became bigger. And then eventually you get to the point where, after Bank freaks out and punches Pat up, Grace is crying there and saying like, okay, we can stop all this, but please just keep being my friend.
Yeah, and help me do the thing anyway, because I want to go to this university as well. Like, she still wants that.
There's a
manipulation.
She's got a dependency that, like, it came across to me like she didn't realize, just how, I guess, toxic the word would be, the friendship was.
To further go into how this feels like a heist movie or even like a thriller or crime film, you have those a lot where you have these people who start out somewhat friendly. For some reason, I thought of Goodfellas a lot while watching this in weird ways, where the Grace character still thinks of herself as Lynn's friend. But by that point, she's not, because her and Pat, like in many criminal movies where you have these groups, start to think they're actually the important people now because they've got the money. So we're actually going to secretly organize beating Bank up without your permission, without even consulting you. Like you know what I mean, in these criminal movies where they start to get that ego and think that they can do all this stuff, like how Robert De Niro is in Goodfellas, where Robert De Niro slowly but surely becomes like this fucking psychopath that you have to avoid because he's like the big dog now, even though like all of this stuff is happening from Ray Liotta and everything, that he's riding the wave. Kind of minorly, that's how I felt, where you have that confrontation in that scene with Pat and Bank and all of them and Grace and so you feel, but then you know that she's still trying to play her, and yeah, I knew about this, but we didn't think it would matter. We thought we would win. We thought it would work out. And it's just like, you don't respect me enough as a person to even, like, not only that, you don't respect me as a person, but also our main character's still in that minor zone there where it's like, but I was in charge. This was my plan. You're undermining my plan, which is beautiful. But I agree. The film is really great with the moral complexities, because here's one of the things that absolutely wrecks me in a movie is when you take a seemingly good, pure person and ruin them, like corrupt them. Bank is a classic example of that. I love it in movies, but it is an emotional. If you are a movie maker or a writer and you want to know how to pull at my strings, make characters like Bank, because I related to him. I was thinking, this guy's a hero in another movie that we would be watching, and he's corrupted by these figures, but he seems like a good guy, but then by the end, they've not only ruined him, they've made him eviler than any of them, and that was really hard to watch, but it was earned.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, that last scene was basically like the villain origin story's last scene.
It was Sam Jackson in Unbreakable. No, not really. But like, that is, for me, as a tool or a storytelling thing, that always hits. Usually that really hits when you take a what was a once morally pure person and you corrupt them in a way where showing our main character doing it too, because that's the thing. You are so in the shoes of our main person and you're rooting for them even though you know you shouldn't be. And then you're so caught along in the motion of it all like they are. And then when you stop to think about it like our main characters, you realize, look at the cost of this. It's not just the threat of being caught. It's, look at what we've done to the one good student in this entire film. We've made him a diabolical villain who's not only willing to ruin his own life further, but the main characters, but he doesn't even care. And he used to be a character that cared.
Very much so, yeah.
I mean, since we're talking about that, what did you think about the Bank side of this story? I mean, what did you think about that? Because they introduce him a little later. They have the banner on the school fly down with his face on there. And then they're kind of, in the interrogation scenes, they do kind of foreshadow, even before what happens, that he's her nemesis.
Yeah, nemesis or rival. I think he even literally says like rival at some point. Yeah. I do agree. He was, I saw him as, you know, the morally upright character early on. Very, I guess, emotionally stoic. Like, he didn't really crack a smile much. The scene with him...
He had nothing to smile about, in all fairness.
That's true. The scene with him and her, like, preparing to go on the TV show where she's, like, you know, fixing his hair. By the way, in that article I read before, apparently physical contact with heads is also frowned upon. So, you know, Grace and her in that scene, maybe there's something there going on. Yeah, like the dynamic there, that was really the scene that was introducing us to him. You know, like, oh, his shirt was dirty, his hair wasn't done right.
And he was in the bathroom meticulously trying to look good. And then the first thing is pointing out that you look crummy and poor and disgusting.
Yeah. So, and you know, this dynamic with our main character, who now is not that she was super unsociable early on, but like now she's acting a little bit more sociable, like Grace here. So you're seeing how this character has developed a little bit versus this character we're now being introduced to. And then, as you mentioned, we very quickly learn that his memorization thing, he just rattles off pi and the TV show tells him, okay, stop, you in. Okay. Yeah, and it's interesting seeing them paired up in this way, because that first part of the film really shows the contrast between them. She's going for the money, this guy's asking him for help, and he's saying, no, what are you talking about? He dobs on her, but doesn't really feel satisfied about it, even though he's benefiting from it.
Well, in a weird way, he dobbed on her and yet inadvertently so, because he was dobbing on the other guy.
That's true. Yes, you're
and
right.
he then, through that process, realized that she was involved. It wasn't an accident. She was involved.
Right,
and
because
then he connected the dots.
He's not the one that saw the evidence. It was the headmistress saw, like, why do you have notes about the other test?
And then he figured it out from his conversation with the other character that, oh, there's somebody who's being paid.
Yeah.
It must be her. Who else would it be? And yeah, so even then, like, it's still a noble, even though she's angry with him and despises him, there's still that avenue of, well, he's still a noble guy, and you can hopefully patch things up with him, because he wasn't the classroom nerd who's like, I can't wait to screw it. No, he's just a well-meaning person.
Yeah,
who's got struggles of their own. Like, oh man, his home life. I was just like,
his mother's calloused hands.
Yeah, and just like he rarely sleeps because he's working and then goes to school. It's like, oh, man.
Even though it's not really one-to-one with it, the thing that I kept thinking about was Death Note. This idea of like geniuses, on opposite sides kind of working together. The main character at that early point in the film was falling under the influence of the whole idea of, lies beget lies. When the lie gets found out, the truth will eventually be found out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the dragging him into the whole plot after his big downfall, which, was orchestrated, we find out later.
Did you guess that? It was orchestrated?
In a sort of indirect way, I thought about it, because the way that the two guys that beat him up acted reminded me of very stereotypical, like, street punks in, like, Japanese media.
I thought, I guessed it, but wrong. I thought she did plan it. I was like, oh,
okay.
She's planned it and it's going to play out. I didn't expect that she didn't plan it and that Pat did.
I didn't
expect that. I actually thought, like, she was at that point pretty ruthless. I did genuinely think, oh, she's organized this so that she could get him in. But I took the wrong path.
I didn't necessarily think that there was a mastermind behind it. I just thought, like, oh, those two guys purposely went after him because that's just how it's like the most stereotypical scene in a Yakuza game. Like, Kiryu's walking down the street, he accidentally bumps into someone kind of gently and they freak out, like, you hurt me, you're gonna pay for this.
And then you then you rip off a park bench and throw it at them. Yeah. And you have got squeaky cat shoes on.
That was Bang's problem. He wasn't a Yakuza protagonist.
He didn't rip off his shirt and have tats. Yeah,
he didn't throw off his shirt.
The film played me again. I'm pretty smart when it comes to movies. We know we both are. Like, you can predict things, but this movie would just throw me off. Just I didn't okay, they're going to fall in love. That's what I thought. They're going to fall in love, and then the movie kind of plays with that, but not too much. Not too much. Not enough for you to say it's a love story where it falls apart. No. And then I was like, oh, well, he is going to be her rival throughout the entire thing. Like, once he knows this, he's always going to be trying to foil her. No, not really. Like, minorly. And then he gets swept in. I was like, oh, he's in on it. I didn't expect that. I didn't genuinely, because there was this thing where
that's true.
Why is he in the interrogation? He wouldn't be involved. And then they come up with a way of getting him involved. And I was like, Yeah,
well, the big mystery is, like, what is the interrogation specifically about? Because clearly it is, in quotes, they're being interrogated by some sort of authority figure. This is all in air quotes, everyone. So what is the thing that they got caught for? Obviously, they've already been caught once for the cheating in that one, 2-set exam. But then all of the consequences for that get done.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, where is this going? Where is this going? Obviously, they're playing it up in a lot of ways of, reacting to the questions, trying to deflect it.
And we knew
people are obviously making excuses.
We knew from the news report that also opens up the movie, or is in the opening section of the movie, about, like, there's lockdowns and, like, these people have been caught cheating at this test, and that now has, like, locked down Asia and all of this stuff to double check of who has cheated and whatever. So that's also in our brain of, oh, they must have got caught doing this test and now they're being interrogated, but, like, what's the extent of this? But then as the movie goes along, at least I for myself, they reintroduce that news report right before they go do the test in Sydney. And my brain went, oh no. Oh, this is a news report before they go do the test that makes it harder for them to do it.
Oh, right.
But then,
yes.
Actually, no, that's still a news report, but after the events of the film, like after she's recorded her confession.
Right.
It's like because the film is constantly doing that, like playing around with like time stuff and making you think otherwise. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I mostly remember the middle part of the whole news thing, like when the oh no, it's going to make it harder thing.
But no, that's actually like that those news reports are about what she confesses to at the very end of the movie.
Right.
And how everyone gets fucked over because she refuses to do what Bank wants. But you are given that at the beginning and the middle of the film, and both the beginning and the middle are making you believe something completely different. But by the end, you're like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yep.
Very good at playing you. It plays you like a fiddle, damn it.
Like a damn fiddle.
Like a damn fiddle. Like, for instance, I was completely played when she... man, this movie gives me a headache because of how much it, like, fucked me about. But, like, when Bank agrees, and then when he starts to ask for more money, I genuinely didn't see that coming. I was like, what? But dude, you're a good guy. You don't need more money. That really got me. Like, I was sitting in my chair and I did like the double take. What? Bank, what are you doing, man?
Everything after the big...
You don't have enough time.
Everything after the big exam, begins is like, super stressful. So when something like that happens, like even I was like, oh, dude, come on, just let me see how this plays out, man. Don't try to jeopardize it now.
How do you feel about this? And what do you think it is? At least for myself, but like in a movie like this, you get told, here's the plan. And it's a movie, so the plan can't go that smoothly or it wouldn't be fun, right? Like, we're going to do this elaborate plan where we do this, we do this, we do this. Here's our limitations. When you watch a movie, something's going to interrupt it. Someone's going to do a betrayal or backstab or this play or this is going to get interrupted. Like, oh no, someone's going to be in the toilets so they can't go in there. How come that stuff can still work even though you as a viewer know that that's going to happen? Because it wouldn't be exciting if it went to plan. Like, what is it about the human nature where we've seen this so many times? Even you play video games, it happens all the time in video games.
Well, I mean, it's a common trope when it comes to heist films or even any sort of story that has a plan, is that if the viewer, are shown the plan beforehand, then that means something's going to go wrong. If you are kept out of the loop, then that means that things are generally going to go well. There might be some twists here and there that the characters will be stressed out about. But this film did do the thing of very meticulously telling you what the plan was, how it was going to work. And so I wasn't so much thinking about that trope in my head. But then once they were, setting up the phones in the bathroom and getting ready to go to the exam, I then thought to myself, like, oh God, I know what the plan is. Something's going to go wrong. And somehow I wasn't thinking about like, oh, there's going to be someone in the bathroom, like very common, uncontrollable elements, because our characters were so confident and, they prepared that I was on board with them.
You were caught up in the momentum.
Yes. In a weird...
That's a part of what these movies should achieve is you are so in the groove that you don't have time to think about it properly.
Yes.
And even if you are like me, and I did think about it, what it needs to do is get you physically involved. So even though she goes in the toilet, and I knew that was going to happen, did it stop my palms from sweating? No, it didn't. It made them sweat more. I was like, oh no. And the intercutting of his problems in the toilet and her problems and how his are worse and hers aren't. And then, oh my Lord.
Out of context, this is sounding like constipation.
I know. And I said to my wife, Rachel, I said, well, they're not as smart as me. If it was me, I would have taken two phones and put one in one toilet and one in another in case somebody went in the toilet that I need to use. And then you see there's only two toilets in there and they're all full. And I was like, well, my plan wouldn't have worked either. So fuck me, I guess. We're talking a lot about like all the meticulous heisty stuff, but what about the comedy of the movie? Did you find, I mean, what was some kind of comedic moments for you? Because this does have a comedy bent to it, especially at least for me in the filmmaking style, like the choices of music, or like I had a particular laugh when it faded to black and faded back up, and Grace grabbed out that nice can of Pepsi and did like the clink and drinking it and smiling like, and I was like, what is this? And then like zooms out and she's like, how was that? Was that good?
She likes acting, yeah.
I thought that was really, really well done. That was a big laugh from me because I rolled my eyes and then I went, oh, here we go. And then I went, oh no, they've actually given it a context.
It's
Great.
Pepsi, so she's being Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there by saying like the style of the film. A lot of things it does is just funny because I'm actually kind of struggling to pick a specific moment, but I know that throughout the film, I was like, grinning maniacally, metaphorically rubbing my hands together like, oh yeah, where's this going? And I was watching it on SBS On Demand, so I had ad breaks, and paused it a few times to get up, go do something, and I just kept thinking like, oh man, I want to know what happens next.
I thought Pat would have given you a lot of joy.
He was,
especially when he was Pat Jobs when he did his little seminar.
When the trivia said like this was inspired by Steve Jobs, I was like, no shit.
And his speech about like universities don't choose us, we choose the university.
He's definitely the most outwardly like comedic character. Obviously, he's kind of,
him and Grace are pretty funny.
Yeah, he's kind of it's weird with the structure of the story. He's sort of the antagonist in the sense that he's the one that kind of pushes the immorality on our main character, but not so much the one that she stands in opposition to. I guess he's the antagonist if we think of her goal as being upright.
He's an antagonist in the way of an inciting incident.
Yeah.
While Bank becomes an antagonist in terms of challenging her development.
Yeah.
Because she develops and grows by that point when Bank challenges her at the end. And it's pretty compelling. Like again, if you know movies, oh, she's not going to accept it. But there was a little part of me that was like, damn, he's made a pretty badass monologue that it would leave me shaking in my shoes if I was her. And
especially since, she's already been found out once and, she's talked to her dad and, she went straight in a way, but then like more temptation came and it's like, okay, here it goes again. Is this another raising of the stakes that's actually going to push her, or have the consequences now actually, affected her to the point it's like, no, it needs to end?
And we had the photo deletion scene where she really struggled to delete that nice moment that they had together. So it complicates you as a viewer where she's emotionally attached to him in some way. So you could also see why she would be tempted and why it hurts so much that he's become this.
And filmmaking wise, really good touch that like, when you delete the photo and it goes to like the next most recent photo, it's the exact same photo, but just they're not there.
That was wonderful.
I was like, oh shit.
It's like an effect of like
the characters got deleted from the photo rather than the photo itself.
Yeah, right. And okay, we got to talk about the obvious thing. There's the scene I didn't know was going to happen where she's figuring out the time zones. And she's walking down and looking at all the clocks and it's saying each city. Yeah. And I was like, oh, what is the last one going to be Australia? Because she hasn't seen in Australia. And then it was like Sydney. And then the camera zooms in and you're like, and you hear the music change to slightly Australian themed music. And I was like, fuck, are they going to come to Sydney? And then they proceed to come to Australia. And I was like, I didn't realize we were going to be watching a non-foreign film now. We're going to be watching a homegrown Aussie film where we have two Australian actors.
I remember early on, I think it might have even been the first line of dialogue or the first bit of dialogue. There was like bilingual speaking going on. I'm like, oh, is this like a Bollywood film where they're just randomly going to speak English every other line?
Yeah.
Which kind of led me into the whole thing of like, oh, I guess there's some sort of Western influence in Thailand.
Yeah, but I wasn't expecting them to come here.
Yeah. I remember with that one, like with the clocks, I was like, okay, where is this going?
Right.
And then when she like, pinpointed Australia, it's like, it's going to happen there first. I'm like, oh, of course, because Australia is one of the countries that's ahead of the rest of the world in terms of time zones because it's on the east side of the map.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not too far from Thailand, so the 4-hour difference.
Yeah, it made sense. Because Asia and Australia, Australia's just a bit more to the right if you're talking
yeah,
the
on the map.
y-axis.
Yes.
And by that I mean x-axis.
Thank you, Martin.
Sorry, I'm a genius
Where is it
too.
on longitude and latitude?
Lower to the right.
Just over there.
The second number in the coordinate wouldn't be very high, but the first number would be very high.
Yeah, but I mean, were you excited that they were going to come here?
I was intrigued. If it was Melbourne, I would have been excited.
Well, I mean, Sydney's pretty fun.
You've been to Sydney.
I knew when they.
I've been on the Harbour Bridge.
I got fucking confused. I'm not a huge Sydney expert. I didn't live there. I've just visited there several times. I want to know what fucking university they were at, because then she walks to a train station and it's Redfern train station. I'm like, wait. This fucking high prestigious, like, top-notch security test at this lavish university in Redfern? I don't believe that. For some reason, I don't believe that. It might have been some romper stomper shenanigans where, romper stomper, they say it's at this train station, but it's actually at this one.
It's at Richmond, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like film trickery. But, oh, man, I was so keen. And you know what? They did a good job. The film isn't the highest budget. There's some things where you go, it's a little low budget or whatever. But, not too bad when they came to Australia. I thought it looked pretty decent, and they used the locations well. I kind of looked and went, I know that place. They did a good job of capturing it for the small sections that they could. And we made a little comment about it, but the Russian guy was great. I just loved seeing him like mean mugging and walking and stomping around and being like, where is she?
In retrospect, yeah, he was a lot more like the... not so much Terminator, but like Skinner Terminator.
I was thinking about Skinner the entire time. I really was.
Because like I was actually kind of surprised that like he went so far away from the venue to get her, and obviously it's a movie. He has to trace her to get her, but like it was really kind of terrifying that like he was following her so accurately. Yeah,
and I loved the moment where he gets her, she throws up, and then she puts the phone in that person's handbag, and like, yeah, she succeeded. She got away with it just in the nick of time.
At first, when she was buying things from the vending machine, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Because she can't fake vomiting.
But eventually when she bought the drink, I'm like, oh, okay, there's going to be chunks.
How did you feel? Like, you went, oh, I know that drink. That's in my local Woolworths. One of those milk things.
Oh, was it Up and Go?
I think it was Up and Go. I can't remember if it was Up and Go or Centaurum or something, but yeah, it was.
I didn't read what it was, but I was like, oh yeah, I know.
I don't get them, but I know those.
Yeah, same.
And this isn't to make any kind of comment, but like it made sense because whenever I see people getting them from vending machines, like it's always at like that one end of the train station. Like it's never in the middle. It's always at that one fucking end. And I just laughed because I was like, that's a weirdly little accurate thing. Now, to tie into my personal things with cheating. Yeah,
I've been looking forward to this.
When I was in high school, we did science, and I was friends with a lot of people, but my main core of friends were the top students, like the science maths students. So I was English and arts and all of that. Of course, I did drama and art and photography and English.
And you were a good French boy too, weren't you?
I did French only for 1 year because then the teacher retired. And so then they had no new teacher for French, so they didn't teach it. But yes, I was good in French. Oui. That's French for yes. I was not really the most interested in science. I wasn't bad at it, but I just wasn't interested. But there was this really big test in year 10. Mm-hmm. We had a school certificate, and that was like a big deal back in the day, but it's no longer a thing that exists. And so it was like, there was this level of like, this is really important, but also not important, because it's like, we're doing this for a certificate that will no longer mean anything. So, and I did the test fine. And then I found out there was a big hoopla. There was a big deal. There was a whole saga. And I got dragged in and asked a bunch of questions from some teachers. And I didn't know the context because I was completely out of the loop. But there were clearly teachers asking questions in covert ways to find out if I cheated at the test. Or if I was no, it wasn't even if I cheated. It was, they were probing me without giving me any actual information of, am I a part of it? some cheating. They didn't believe that I cheated because my results lined up too well with how I usually did.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a clear air of, he knows people who are involved. He might know.
Yeah.
What happened was, sorry guys, my friends, my genius friends, they banded together with some other kids to cheat at the test, using their smart skills to do somewhat similar, not this elaborate, but
obviously, yeah.
do things to cheat at the test, and they got caught. And it was a whole big deal. And my friends, and they're still my friends, but they didn't involve me. They didn't involve me because they didn't see a reason to. They were like, well, you don't, it was no offense given, but it kind of was offensive. They're just like, well, you weren't good enough to get involved in this.
Yeah, you weren't smart enough to cheat to get better results.
And no joke, I was super offended. And to this day, I still mock them for that, because I'm not a cheater. Like, I never cheated in these tests. I didn't see the need to. I was always an average student, maybe a higher average. But I always worked hard and I did my best. And if I didn't do well, that's just on me. But I never cheated. But I laughed.
Do you hear that,
so
Ryan's
hard.
High School?
Yeah, Kempsey High.
Yeah, say it again, Ryan, just so that they really get it.
I never cheated.
Yeah, see? Okay.
please. But no, it was a real big thing. It was a real big deal. And, you know, these guys were top dogs, and it really brought down the morale of the school for our year, that all these smart kids cheated and made this elaborate cheating thing, and it was just a big stain on our year, and we were like looked down upon from the teachers for the remainder of time because of that and other incidents at our school, because we were rural country school where we did fucked up shit because we were bored. But I remember just that moment, and I always ridiculed my friends, being like, oh, you think you're so fucking smart, you couldn't be smart enough to even cheat at a test and not get caught. Like, I always made fun of that. Like, not only were you dumb enough to cheat, but you weren't even smart enough not to get caught. Like, if you're going to do it, and I would point this out, I know dumbasses in our year that get away with cheating. You know? That's the thing that really grinded my gears. You guys are so fucking smart, and you couldn't even get away with it. And so that's kind of like my connection with the movie, where I was looking at this and I kind of thought about that incident a lot.
So question one, two questions actually. The second one depends on the first. You going to recommend this film to them? And two, how excited are you to recommend it to them?
Very excited. I got an idea.
Yep.
If we ever had a movie night, and I mean a long movie night, because this movie is long.
Yeah, it's just over 2 hours.
Just over 2 hours.
Just barely over 2 hours.
If we had a movie day, this is people, you don't have to do all three of these movies, but I recommend pairing some of these. Bad Genius, Confessions, the Japanese film from 2010, was it? Whenever it was.
I can't remember.
And Handmaiden.
Okay.
I feel like all three of these movies would be good back to back, because they're all Asian language films. They all really play around with dynamics of morality and character and storytelling. They're not afraid to flip what the viewer understood to be the story around and twist and turns and all of that. I feel like you would play these movies back to back and have a really good time.
Yeah, especially if you're in a group that's like actually going to pay attention.
Yeah,
like, not just like chat and maybe.
Oh no! Like if you're like and that's always harder with foreign. If you're going to sit down and watch foreign movies with subtitles, you're not going to do it when your mates are drinking beers and having pizzas and like talking and chatting. You're gonna. But do you agree? I mean, we've covered all three of these films. I feel like all three of them kind of would be a great companions for one another.
There's a lot of really clever things happening in all three of these films, yeah. In terms of cheating on my end...
Bartek School, listen to this.
The closest thing that I can think of and was, I think, also Year 10 Science. Something about Year 10 Science. I remember... I think this might be two incidences. The first one was that somehow one of the science teachers had attached the upcoming science test or even exam into like an email or something, and one of the students got it, and so it was being passed around.
Right.
And I do remember, like, out of curiosity, like, I scanned through the whole thing. I didn't study it, like, so intently or anything like that. But when I eventually did the test, I'm like, oh god, this is really the same thing. So that was one of them, and I don't remember.
And that happened in the movie, right? When they're doing their first
it's like
exam, and it's like, hey, this is Mrs. thing that we studied.
In cases where, like, you know, you're getting old practice exams to do the tests, you know, they gave them the actual upcoming tests in the film, and that's like one idea that's like, oh, well, if they're being corrupt, you know, we'll be corrupt.
Yeah.
And the other one that I can remember, and this is something that was kind of forced upon me in a way.
Listen to this school.
Yeah, I was sitting next to this one kid. I won't say his name, but his name was Daniel. And I wasn't like really friends with him or anything. He was like a guy that came partway into the year. I was sitting next to him during this exam, and it was one of those two tables where, you know, we're right next to each other. We didn't have our own desks. And we were doing the science test. I think it was just a normal test. And I think there was a multiple choice part to it. And then at one point, he just like nudges me, whispers, and is like, hey, here are the answers. And I never got the story of like where he got the answers from, or even if they were real. But like, I had a peek at them, and I was looking at like the multiple choice answers to the questions. I'm like, these feel like the real answers. These are like.
So he was being a friend.
Yeah, so it was.
And then you became brothers.
And well, no, but it was just this weird thing of like, well, I was going to do this sincerely, but now I can't really take this out of my head. So
here's this, guys.
I guess I'm writing down what he's showing me.
What year was this?
10.
Bartek's school? Retract those results.
Yes, the principal.
Him.
The principal from the time, come tell me that I did wrong. Oh, wait, you're in prison. Sorry.
What did he do? What did he do? Did he do something naughty that we can't say on the pod? This was an all boys Catholic school, right?
Yes, and
do we have to fill in the blanks with that?
The principal was a religious figure. He was a brother. He wore the robes. He was bald.
Oh.
He didn't do any of the crimes while being principal at this school.
But at a previous.
In his past, he worked at an all boys orphanage called Boys Town.
Oh, that's Boys Town. And he had the film. Yeah.
And he had a different like brother name at the time.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Well, there you go. Another thing I wanted to point out was, with my experience, I was that kid, and I mean, you know this if you've listened to the podcast. I've talked about this a couple of times, where parents and students would kind of expect or like think that I would do the bad thing, even though there was no evidence that I did. I was thinking things.
That, yeah, because you told me this story.
A classic example of this is one time. One of my friends' mums came to my house.
I love this story.
This is the dry ice story. And she came to my house, and she just was like, to my parents, not even to me. Like, I was there too, but she was like talking to my parents about me while I was there. And she was like, do you know where my son is? And I'm like, I don't. Like, my parents are like, no, we don't know where Tim is. And it's just like, is he here? It's like, no, he's not here. It's like, well, where is Tim? Because he should be back by now. And legit, her excuse of thinking to come here was, he's doing something bad. He must be with Ryan. And it's like, well, I'm not with him. And she didn't believe us. And then I told, because I knew where they were. I was like, oh, they're at our friend such and such's house, who was respected because he was a nerd. One of the people who cheated in the test as well. And this was at the time where they knew this. So I don't know why that such and such friend had such high regard in the eyes of this parent when they've been known to be dubious. But they were out in the bush playing with dry ice and axes with logs of wood. And I just said this, and she just looked at me and just looked at my parents and just kind of scoffed and was like, they would not do that. They're good boys. And then walked off. And was like treating it like I'm this fucking liar. And they were doing that. They were doing that. And I'm sitting here going, what the fuck? I'm just enjoying my Thursday night or whatever it is. And I come here and my friend's mum comes here just to say, I think your son sucks and he's corrupting my son. But he's not actually, but I'm not going to accept that. Goodbye. And she went back to her home planet and never came back. And yeah, so it was like...
And your friend Tim and Daniel, they were having fun in the woods.
Tim's his real name, so I'm not afraid to do that. But Tim, you know. That's a funny story, Tim. You know it. Yeah, and your mum hates me, Tim. You know this. When you got married, Tim, and I was your best man, she never talked to me the entire time. Didn't say a single word because she couldn't stomach the idea that I was the best
She's
man.
like, Ryan's not the best.
No joke. She couldn't stomach that out of all of his friends from like when he was 4, I was the one that remained. Literally, I was the one that remained. Like everyone else fell to the wayside because you know how life is, but I remained. And that really would piss you off if you were a parent who hated that one kid and they're the one that stuck. Sorry, I'm still here, bitch. I'm back. I'm going to come to your house and ask where my mum is. And if you don't believe, and I don't believe that you're not doing bad things with her, playing with dry ice and fire axes. And
it's always funny when you like flip it around. Like, oh, the parents are looking for the kids. The kids are looking for the parents. It's like that episode of That 70s Show where the parents get high.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about with Bad Genius? I mean, you were really enamored with this movie. I'm glad to hear that. Anything else you want to touch upon before we wrap this out?
Oh, we went on a big tangent there, so I have to get myself back into thinking about the film. What was there?
I loved the ending.
The ending, yes, the ending.
Where, you know, you have the confrontation and then her and her father, and it's the intercutting, and then the end of it being her confessing to the people and, you know, taking the fall.
This was another film where I was like, oh, I want to see where this thread goes, but no, that was the end of the film, unfortunately. But
it is one of those ones where you look back and go, all the threads did tie
it
off.
it makes complete sense, but I was left wanting more, which is a compliment.
Yeah. If that's it, are you ready to hear what we got for recommended from our listeners?
Well, first we have to say we recommend.
I recommend Bad Genius. I thought it was a very good time. I have no negatives with it. Maybe 5 minutes shorter, but even then I didn't think so. I thought it glided by. And I think it's because, you know why I wanted it to be shorter? I wanted to feel stressed less. Like, selfishly, I was like, could I have 5 minutes less of stress? Because I was stressed out. There was points where I actually stood up and kind of paced around a little bit where I was like, what's in the kitchen right now? Nothing's there. But I'm like, okay. And then I sat back down. There's moments like the pencil thing. My wife covered her eyes when she started putting the pencil down her throat. She was like, oh no, I hate this. And I said, Rachel, watch her gag herself with a pencil.
Part of me was turning away, but I was still watching.
I was worried that she was going to fucking stab herself with it.
That might have been the big worry, yeah.
I didn't think, and then I was like, oh, she's doing this. Oh, I see what she's doing.
I actually recommend it as well.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Really fun film. I think, I also don't have any negatives. I want to feel more stressed.
You will watch this with your family at some point, you think?
It's a good question. I don't know.
You don't think so?
I mean, it's definitely a really good film, but it's not quite lighthearted.
But it's fun.
It is fun, yeah, but I don't know. I have to think about it.
I think your mum would enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's a fan.
I can't speak for your brother Oscar, but I think your mum would enjoy it.
I think I'd sooner recommend it to Oscar, to be honest.
I think it's a family watch. I think you sit down and go, guys, let's watch Bad Genius.
You know what?
2017.
It's actually Oscar's birthday today. I'll go home and say your present recommendation of this film.
And no, you present, and then you push him out of his computer chair, type into his browser, www.sbsdemand.
It's like, do you have an account? Are you logged in on Facebook? All right, log in with Facebook profile.
Okay, now. Thankfully, the subtitles are lined up with this film, unlike with The Other Son. I sent them an email about that, and they never replied. SBS?
SBS really doesn't like you, do they?
They don't like
it's
me.
Like, hey, could you please give me the subtitles for this film that I can't find the subtitles for? It's like, no, it's ours.
There's this one movie called Foon that's a French film, and the only English subtitles in the entire world are owned by SBS, and they refuse to give them to me. I was like, I will pay you for just the subtitles alone. And they're like, no, it's ours. Well, could you please re-release it on demand? No. Why not? It's not available. But you guys have it. Shut up. Guys, please, we're not talking to you anymore. You're no longer our friend. And that's why we won't reply to you about your email about The Other Son's subtitles being out of whack. Fuck you, Ryan.
And where the fuck is Tim?
Well, you see, he's actually out. I don't believe you. What I do believe is our recommendation from the listening people is a movie that will bring back a guest Bartek, we're going to be
Ooh.
doing Are We Done Yet?
Cool.
Starring Ice Cube, and hopefully our friend Worldwide Will return. I've talked to him. He's locked in. So we're doing Are We Done Yet? The sequel to Are We There Yet?
This is like, I think, our third Ice Cube film of the year.
Should we do an Ice Cube film every month?
But only for listening people's choice.
Yeah. So listening people keep recommending Ice Cube movies. We've got to do them all.
Remember, it's his son is in NWA, not him.
Yeah, we've got to do Ice Cube. We've got to do his movie, the John Carpenter movie he did, Vampires on Mars. I can't remember. It's a terrible film.
It's 22 Jump Street.
Not 21. We won't do 21. Bartek hasn't seen it. So.
No, I have seen it.
But you only talk about 22.
I like 22 more.
Whoa. But the first one has your favorite, Dave Franco.
Wasn't he in the second one?
Isn't he in the first? I swear he's in the first.
Hey, look,
a Friendship Bracelet. Isn't that the first film? Well, we'll find out next time on Pictures Powwow.
No.
Are We Done Yet?
Yes. Are we done yet?
You can find us on the social medias of your choice, Facebook and Twitter. Those are the ones of your choice, no others. We're not on Bebo or MySpace or Instagram or Twitter, Tumblr or Reddit. We are Spit and Polish Presents. We are posting on there regularly. You can hit us up with your suggestions on there or at our email, spitandpolished@gmail.com. All of this is in the description of this episode for your convenience. So make sure to hit up all of those things. If you have not rated and reviewed us, please do so. It would be something that we would both like. We would use it to help the world be better by saying, look what this person said.
Yes.
And then clap.
Most of our reviews were from the Unappreciated Masterpieces days.
Should we go back to it? Should we? Some of them are from the Mystery Box days. Should we go back to it?
I mean, I have no problem bringing back Mystery Box, but...
Bartek's crying. He's like, can we please bring back Mystery Box? Please.
I want to watch...
I want to watch the one with the pregnant woman with the knife. That's the one I want to watch. It's the only one I want to watch.
Oh, giving foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
You don't want to watch The Commissioner?
I don't know what he's saying, but that's it from me. Bartek, pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure talking to you too. Thank you for picking a good movie.
I try.
You succeeded. You tried and succeeded.
And I passed the test.
Yes.
Only to find out that I cheated.
Well, we didn't find that out yet, but we have some people coming in from Kempsey to question you.
Tim's mum.
She's the head teacher now.